foundations of risk management. Next aim statement is the standard capital asset pricing model. Under this aim statement, we are going to understand the derivation and various components of capital asset pricing model. Then we look at the various assumptions underlying capital asset pricing model. Then we'll describe what is capital market line, and finally we learn to use the capital asset pricing model to calculate the expected return on a particular asset. So let us start with the basics of CAPM. This is the formula. The expected return of a particular asset can be given as risk-free rate plus beta, which is a coefficient, into expected return on market portfolio minus risk-free rate. So this difference will give us market risk premium. So this number is because of the risk associated with market portfolio, what extra return from risk-free return an investor should expect. So this is market risk premium, and since beta is a coefficient which standardizes the systematic risk, this will tell us the asset is how much more riskier than the market. If it is same riskier than as the market, then we can put just value equal to 1. If it is more, then accordingly we can increase the value. Then we add to the risk-free rate in order to get the expected return on the asset. So as we know, ERI is expected return on this particular security, I. RF is the risk-free rate of return. ERM minus RF is the market risk premium, as we have just seen. And the beta, which is a coefficient, standardized measure of systematic risk, which cannot be diversified. So this can be given by the formula covariance between the asset and the market divided by the variance of the market. So this will give us the relative amount of risk which is associated with the particular security. Let us move to the next slide. So we define the beta of a particular stock as a measure of its relative risk in the market. So if we want to find out relative to the market portfolio how much risk is associated with a particular stock, then we have to use beta. So for a given stock market index, beta measures the asset's relative risk contribution to a particular index. So here index is representing the market portfolio. So for a market portfolio, beta is going to be equal to 1 since we are measuring relative to the market portfolio. If the security is more volatile than the market, riskier than the market, then we have value greater than 1. And if the security is less volatile than the market, then we have the value of beta less than 1. Now let us take one example to clarify the issue. Assume that risk-free rate of return is say 4%. The market portfolio gives us a return of say 7%. This is giving due to the extra risk associated with the market. Now let us write the formula for capital asset pricing model. It is RF plus beta into RM minus RF, the expected return on market minus risk-free rate, which is market risk premium into beta. So let us take first case where we are talking about the market itself, market portfolio. So beta for the market portfolio or the index is going to be 1. So let us calculate what should be expected return for market using CAPM. So risk-free rate is 4%, beta is 1, market risk premium is 7% minus 4%, which is 3%. So 3% is the market risk premium, 1 is the beta. So 7 minus 4 is 3, which is premium, and 4 is the risk-free rate. So we again get 7%. So this is same as the market rate. Let us look at the third case where security is more volatile than the market. In that case, beta is going to be greater than 1. Say beta is 2. It is twice as riskier as the market. For that, we are going to have same risk-free rate. only the value of beta is going to be 2. 2 into 7 minus 4, which is 3%. So 3% is the market risk premium, but we are going to charge double premium for this particular security since it is more volatile. So beta is 2. So 2 into 3 is 6%. 6% plus risk-free rate 4%, that is 10%. Since it is more volatile, we are going to ask more return for this particular security, which is 10% in this case. Let us look at the third case where the security is less volatile or less riskier. Say value of beta is 0.5. This is half as riskier as the market in terms of beta. So expected return is going to be 4% plus 0.5, the value of beta, into market risk premium 7 minus 4, which is again same 3%. So we are going to charge half of the market risk premium for this particular security since it is less volatile. So 3 into half is 1.5%. 4 plus 1.5 is 5.5%. So this security, will you see that is giving less return since it is less riskier. Now based on this understanding of capital asset pricing model, let us look at security market line. The security market line is based on capital asset pricing model. Again the same formula. So we can write it again, ER equal to risk-free rate plus beta into RM minus RF. As we see, this is a equation of a straight line. So if RF is the intercept of the straight line right here and beta is on the x-axis, this is the x-axis, and the return is on the y-axis, ER. So this is y, this is x, this is intercept. So automatically RM minus RF is our slope. So for this line, slope is simply RM minus RF, which is market risk premium. So we can use the same formula and find out the value of expected return for a particular security. If we want to find out that for the market portfolio itself, we know for the market portfolio, covariance between market and market is same as variance. So our value of beta is going to be covariance divided by sigma square, sigma m square, which is simply 1. So the value of beta is 1 for market portfolio and return is same as return of market. So at this point, we understand that a particular stock is having the same risk as the market. So this is a measure of systematic risk which cannot be get away with the diversification. This is the systematic risk or market risk. Now let us look at the next slide. CAPM and security market line. The security market line represents the required rate of return for a particular security given the systematic risk provided by the security. Here we are talking about only systematic risk. We are taking market risk premium, multiplying that by beta. So here we are only talking about systematic risk. The difference between the expected and the required rate of return is called alpha or excess rate of return. So for example, our capital asset pricing model for a security gives us a rate of return as, let us say risk-free rate is 4%, beta is 2 and market rate is 7%. 4% is the risk-free rate. So accordingly we get 10%, which is the expected rate of return. But if the required rate of return on that from current price to the expected price is say 8%. That says the security should be giving 10% based on the risk it has, beta it has, but it is giving only 8%. So that says the security is overvalued. It should give more return. Ideally, based on CAPM, based on the risk it has, it should be given 10%. If it is giving more than 10%, then we say it is undervalued and it should be bought. So when the alpha is positive and stock is undervalued, it will lie above security market line. So it should be bought. If alpha is negative, then the stock is overvalued and it will fall below security market line and it should be sold. And the alpha is 0, our expected and required rate of return are equal, then the stock will fall directly on SML and we can say it is properly valued. So let us look at the SML and overvaluation or undervaluation of the stocks. See this example, the analyst want to forecast about 3 stocks. The risk-free rate is given to be 8%, the market return is 16%. So we need to calculate the expected and required rate of return on each stock, and we need to find out whether it is undervalued, overvalued or properly valued based on capital asset pricing model. The additional information is given as price, what is today, and what is expected price in first year, what is expected dividend in first year, and the beta of the stock is also given. There are 3 stocks, different beta. One is less riskier, less volatile, so lower beta. C is more volatile, more risky. That is why beta is more than 1. Other information is also given. So let us calculate what should be the expected return or what should be the required return, so that we can calculate the alpha and find out whether the stocks are overvalued or undervalued or properly valued. So let us see, for stock A we will calculate using CAPM. We are calculating the expected rate of return, what should be there. Since beta is 1, it should give market rate of return, or we can simply put the values 8% plus 1 into the risk premium, 16% minus 8%. So 8 plus 8 is 16%. This should be the expected return. And what is the required return or the forecasted return based on the market? We are going to get $2 capital gain, that is a change in the price from 26 to 28. So that is change of 2 rupees, $2, and $1 is the dividend which is to be given. So our gain is 28 minus 26, which is 2, plus 1 due to dividend, divided by 26, which is the current price, into 100. So this 3 on 26 is our return. If we calculate in percentage, we get 11.53%. So the expected return is 16%, while required return is only 11.53%. This is forecasted. So if we invest in this particular stock, we are going to return only 11.53%, while based on the risk associated with this stock, the return should be 16%. So it is clearly overvalued. Alpha is negative. It is minus 4.47%. This is negative alpha. So it is overvalued and it should be sold. Similarly, we calculate for stock B and stock C. So we have already calculated for stock A. 28 minus 26 plus 1, which is dividend, divided by 26 is 11.53, which is forecasted or required rate. The expected return based on CAPM, we got 16%. So this is clearly overvalued. Alpha is negative. So we should sell the stock. Let us see for stock B. The price is going to be 46. Currently it is 40. So $6 gain here, $2 from dividend, divide by 40. So we get $8 gain on $40. So 20% is the forecasted return. If we invest, we get 20%. Let us see what should be the expected return based on CAPM. 8% plus 0.8, which is beta, 16 minus 8%. So we get 14.4%. This is giving more than the expected return. Expected return should be only 14.4, but it is giving positive alpha. So we can simply write down alpha is positive, which is about 5.6% positive. So the stock is undervalued and we should buy the stock. Let us see stock C now. 18 minus 6 plus 0.83, which was dividend. So 17.6 is the forecasted return. and based on CAPM we should expect 17.6%. So we have required rate of return and expected rate of return equal to each other. So we don't have any alpha here, alpha is 0. So it is properly valued. So this is the result. Now if you try to plot them here, so this was our security market line. Based on our beta, we have a particular return. So if we put these values from the table on security market line, for C beta equal to 1.2, we have 17.6%. For stock B, this value is 14.4%, and for A it is 16%. This value is 16%. This value is 14.4. This is 17.6. So these values are lying on the security market line. These are based on CAPM, and these points present the actual value, forecasted value, which these stocks are giving. So B was giving 20% forecasted return, A was giving 16% as expected and 11.53 forecasted. So this is 11.53% for A, and for C it has same 17.6. So it is lying on SML, it is properly valued. This is lying below SML, so it is giving lower return, so this is overvalued, and this is lying above, so this is undervalued. It is giving more return, that is undervalued. So this is the broad understanding of CAPM and security market line. So this helps us to understand whether a security is overvalued or undervalued, and ascertaining what should be the right price and right return for that particular security. Now let us look at CAPM in detail. These are the broad assumptions which have been taken in capital asset pricing model. The first assumption is the investors face no transaction cost when trading assets. We are assuming that there is no other transaction cost involved, which is practically not right, but we are assuming it in this model. So this simplifies the computation of returns. If we are considering transaction cost also, it will be a function of transaction cost which has to be estimated while we are finding out the expected return on a particular security. Then we are assuming that assets are infinitely divisible. If somebody wants to buy 0.2 of a stock, he or she will be able to buy, which practically it is not true. There are lot sizes sometimes. Sometimes stocks should be bought only in integers. But for mathematical simplicity, we are assuming that it is possible to hold fractional shares. The third main assumption is there are no taxes involved. We are not taking into consideration the taxation implications. So here investors are indifferent between capital gains and dividend gains or incomes. So we are not treating them separately. We are just assuming that it does not matter to a customer, investor, who is getting a price appreciation or a dividend. We are assuming that taxation is same for both. The next assumption says that investors are price takers whose individual buy and sell securities are not making any difference on the asset prices. So market impact cost for investors is 0. Markets are perfectly competitive and there is no market impact cost. Their decision about buying and selling is not affecting the market at all. So they are just price takers. The next assumption is the utility functions of the investors are purely based on expected portfolio return and risk. There are no further considerations in the utility function. So this provides a framework for investors for making investment decisions. So they are making rational decision based on return and the risk of the portfolio. There are no further considerations which are specific to investors. Let us look at the further assumptions of CAPM. The next assumption is that unlimited short selling is allowed. So if the investor wants to short sell particular security, it is allowed. So weight of the asset in the portfolio could be even negative. then the next assumption is investors can borrow or lend unlimited amounts at the risk-free rate. Practically, it is not true. It depends on the credit worthiness of the investor, the rate of return at which he can borrow. But for simplicity under CAPM, we are assuming that he or she will be able to borrow or lend unlimited amounts at the same risk-free rate. The next assumption is that investors are only concerned about returns and risk over a single period, and that single period is same for all the investors. This is again simplicity for the model. Practically, the period might be different for different investors based on their own needs for cash, etc. The next assumption says all investors have same forecast of expected returns, variances and covariance. So this is known as homogeneous expectations. This is another assumption. And the last assumption is all assets are marketable, including the human capital. We can assign a market value. So that is the last assumption of capital asset pricing model. Now let us move to the next concept, capital market line. Earlier we have seen capital allocation line in the previous discussions. Here we are talking about capital market line. So while we are on a market portfolio which is giving us expected rate of return on the market, at this point we can mix the market portfolio with risk-free assets so that we can increase or decrease the risk and return. Earlier we had one simple portfolio for a particular investor based on the utility function of that particular investor. Now we are talking about the market portfolio where we are combining it with the risk-free asset. So if we are lending, that is weight of the market portfolio is less than 1 and weight in the risk-free asset is positive. So for example, at this point WM could be 0.8 and risk-free asset has only 20% weightage. While we are moving up, we are borrowing, that is our weight in the market portfolio could be more than 1, for example 1.2 for this point, and the weight in the risk-free asset is minus 0.2. That is, we are borrowing 20% of the value at risk-free rate and again investing that in the market portfolio. The summation has to be 1, but we can even go to the negative side. So we could be involved in lending or borrowing at a risk-free rate. That gives us a capital market line. So for a capital market line, the key conclusion is that all investors will make optimal investment decisions by allocating between the risk-free asset and the market portfolio. So here we are assuming that the optimal investment will be mix up of risk-free asset and the market portfolio. So again, our expected return is going to be, so here if we look at the straight line, intercept is the risk-free rate RF, sigma p we had on the x-axis, and this is our slope. So let us look at the chart. Here this RF is the intercept for this particular capital market line. Then we have sigma p at the x-axis and expected rate of return at the y-axis, and the slope can be simply given from this point. If we look at here, this is ERM minus RF and this distance is sigma m. So if we divide ERM minus RF divided by sigma m, we get slope. So that is our slope, ERM minus RF by sigma m. So this is our capital market line. Now let us compare capital market line with security market line for better understanding and clarity. Security market line examine the expected return on individual assets and their systematic risk. So here we are talking about systematic risk. and beta will give us a relative number with respect to market. We are talking about individual assets here. While in capital market line, we are examining the expected return on efficient portfolio and their total risk. So we are talking about the combination here. Security market line is a graph of capital asset pricing model, while the capital market line is graph of efficient frontier, as we have just seen in the chart. In security market line, we have seen the slope is market risk premium, that is ERM minus RF. This was the slope because we had beta at the x-axis. In the case of capital market line, the slope is market portfolio's Sharpe ratio. So Sharpe ratio is nothing but RM minus RF divided by sigma of market. So the expected rate of return of market minus RF, which will give us market risk premium, divided by sigma m, market standard deviation. This is Sharpe ratio. So this is the slope of capital market line. And finally, all properly priced securities will lie on SML. We have seen if it is overvalued, it will lie below. If it is undervalued, it will lie above security market line. So if it is properly priced, it will lie on security market line. And if we talk about capital market line, only efficient portfolios are going to lie on capital market line. So this was about standard capital asset pricing model. Let us take a few questions here. Question number 1 says, which of the following